Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 1 of Enough to Keep Going podcast. Yes, brand new name, same great cast though. We got myself, Osiris Prime, hosting, and we have DBQHams. DB, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Welcome back, Prime.
Thank you. Zeux Damas.
There's a lot of new stuff in here. A lot of new stuff.
Oh boy, I know you had some issues.
Trying to up our game.
Yeah. So like I said, episode number 1. Kind of like in the comics, we rebranded, so we're going back to number 1. No wraparound foil cover though, unfortunately. Maybe Zeus can do like an embossed font or something for our cover or something. So it's number 1. But so why did we go with the new name in number 1 episode? A few things here, and I'll kind of start this off. Excuse me. One was just so we can kind of break away from the old CAG, Casual Adult Gamers website, and the Bandit Gamers, which was our old title. That website's now defunct. It's gone. Well, it's not gone, but it's still there. But it's not. We can't post anymore. You can't really use it. So we kind of wanted to move away from that, and then also our original creator, I guess, of the old podcast, Greylock. He moved on to other things. He had other podcasts or I guess YouTube channels and stuff that he wanted to work on a little bit more. So he kind of didn't have time for the podcast anymore. So, we kind of wanted to break away from that also. So that's one of the reasons we want to just break away from the old CAG site and, kind of just get away from that name and kind of rebrand. We've been doing, for a couple months now, kind of new format, broke away some of the new segments and, we're doing topic of the week and our playlists now and 2 different shows. So we want to do that. And Zeus, if you want to kind of go on what the name maybe means exactly, or maybe not exactly, but give it a go.
Yeah, sure. So I think the reality is it really kind of means a little something different for each of us. And I have to give credit where credit's due, right? This is really DBQ's gig. It was something he mentioned while we were kind of kicking ideas around about what the new YouTube channel and show and everything was going to be, and he at one point said, is it enough to keep going, right? And he was referencing, how many people view our videos and our followership and kind of what, how much of the zeitgeist we occupy, which admittedly is not a lot, but what we all kind of roundtabled and agreed upon was that we just enjoyed getting together on a weekly basis and talking games. The key thing, and I think it's true for all of us, I have friends who play games. I don't have a lot of friends who are gamers, and that's a distinction that I kind of started to articulate when I started riding motorcycles, because lots of people ride bikes. Only some people are really motorcyclists, meaning that they are in love with the ethos, that they read books by Peter Egan, that they've owned multiple bikes, and it's a thing for them. It's more than just riding a bike. And the same is true, at least for me, and I think, like I said, it's true for all of us for games. I don't just play games. I love playing old games. I love reminiscing about the way I felt when I played a game. I love talking through games in a deep link format, right? Talking about the developers and the studios and the business and the industry and doing financial analysis and thinking through what the market is. So the only people we could really find to have those conversations with were ourselves. So when DBQ asked that question, is it enough to keep going? My answer was a resounding yes. So I'll kick it. I'll hand it over to the other two guys, but I'll just mention while I'm up. So we've branded 2 things. We've branded a network called the E2KG Network, which is kind of named. It's an acronym after the core show, and the hope is that other people will be interested in joining us to participate in podcasts on other topics. So I am out looking and actively recruiting for people who want to be on a tech podcast or some type of entertainment podcast. My friend Dave Ketchy and I have started taping our podcast covering the sci-fi network show Dark Matter, which we started last summer when we were working with Geeks Worldwide. We will be continuing that show on the E2KG network this summer. So, and maybe some people who want to talk comics, because all of us are into comics, and we probably won't all be on each of those shows. We're looking for other cast members. We'd like 1 or 2 other cast members to join us on this show. But I'm hoping that the E2KG network becomes a thing and it grows and it's more than just these two podcasts. So, and then the other thing we've branded, of course, is the flagship show, Enough to Keep Going. So DBQ, I kind of called your name out. I hope I didn't muddle your thunder too much. But what does this rebranding and this reboot and relaunch kind of mean for you?
So you muddled my cynical, sarcastic thunder. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So I think really for me the piece here is at what point is it enough to keep going? And as Zeux said, I think there is enough for us to keep going. There's a passion, there's a love for it. We've heard from some of our audience. We'll hopefully be able to continue to grow that. And Prime is right as well, is that as the former CAG site has shut down and people have moved on, that not necessarily any malice that we're leaving it. It's the idea that there's the growth there is not there. That has hit its endpoint, for better or worse, and so we are hoping to create something that is enough to keep going, not only for us but for you as viewers, for who else joins the network in terms of other shows, other podcasts. And again, like we said before, that it doesn't have to be just us, that there are other people out there that have good opinions, that are informed, that enjoy consuming games. It is something where we like to not only just reflect on the newest, greatest, best, as some podcasts do, but also to talk about reflecting back on things, and we'll hit a little bit of that tonight. But I think for me, it will continue to be a question of, is it enough to keep going? And with your help as the audience, with our fellows hosts here, that as of now we're glad to be keeping going for you and for ourselves. So Prime, that's a little bit of how I feel about it as well. Final thoughts on you before we kind of dive into we stop the navel gazing and dive into the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, I guess the only other thing I just wanted to say is another reason for the name, or why we chose this name too, at least for me, is we're all busy. Obviously, we're married, we don't have kids, we have houses, and all kinds of responsibility. And, we can't do this, unfortunately, like every day or every few days, a week. We can only do it a couple days a week. So I think this is it's enough to keep us going. At least we get something out there, at least for now. Like I said, like you said, hopefully we can get other cast members to come in here or do other shows and stuff like that. So I mean that'd be cool to do. I might be interested to do another show. Who knows? But for now, for where I am in my life, this is enough for to keep me going with podcasting, with gaming, and just kind of this lifestyle. So any other thoughts from you two? All right.
No, welcome to everybody who's joining us, who is migrating over, and welcome to those who are stumbling onto us through other means. So hopefully we give you a good show, or at least come back for one or two more as we iron the kinks out.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, we'll get things going here. So let's go on to the next topic, I guess, which is me, kind of, sort of. I guess my thoughts on E3 you guys did. You kind of, finished off the Band of Gamers podcast with the big E3 extravaganza last week. You did, 3 shows? Watched all of them. All of them were good, very good. I wish I could have been on them, but I was on vacation, unfortunately. And I guess this is just kind of time for me to give my thoughts on, what E3 was about, or for me at least, and just kind of what I thought about it. And I did get to watch most of the conferences, not live. I did it after the fact, so I kind of was like fast forwarding basically through them when I had a chance at night, when I was kind of resting from busy day during the day. So I kind of just flipped through it real quick. I did Xbox, I did Bethesda, I did Ubisoft, I did EA, sort of. I'll go a little bit more on that into detail in a second. Sony was the only one I did not get to. I think I only did like maybe the first 5-10 minutes, maybe, or maybe not even that. I think I might have just skipped around on that one, just because I was kind of wiped by the time I got to Sony's conference, and I just couldn't just sit down and go through another conference I had gone through. I think almost all of them at that point, because I think they were the last ones, right, on Tuesday, I believe.
Yes, they were Monday night. So
or Monday night. Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Their trailer extravaganza was Monday night.
Yes, I guess they kind of had 2. I guess there's like a pre-show and then their main conference, which
Yep,
I guess
that
Zeux
was
loved.
pre-show. Yes.
So yeah, so I saw a little bit of Spider-Man. I saw God of War. Those are cool. Kind of, I don't have PS4, so I mean, it kind of goes over my head a little bit just because I don't have that system. And kind of when I don't have that system, I kind of don't pay attention to it too much. I'm trying to do that a little bit less though, just because doing these podcasts and stuff. So I want to kind of keep up with things. But unfortunately, this time around, I didn't get to. But kind of overall, I don't know. I thought it was okay, I guess, the whole E3 conferences and stuff, and just the show itself. I didn't see anything like super, I did see good games. There was good games, and I'll talk about those in a second that I want to play, and hopefully I'll get around to. But just as an overall thing, I don't know. There's no like wow factor. There's no big punch that came out, at least to me. Some of the things like an Xbox, you had the backwards compatibility with the original Xbox, the old big old clunker Xbox, which is fine, I guess. I mean, I guess for me, I guess I should be more excited for that because I never had the original Xbox, but I'm kind of not. I kind of saw it coming. There's kind of signs of it throughout the last few years, or at least the last year. They kind of hinted at it and stuff like that. So that wasn't too big of a surprise. I was kind of like, okay, that's cool. There's games I definitely like to play maybe once that comes around. We had Super Lucky Tail, which is kind of a platformer game for them, I guess. I'm not even sure if that's an exclusive or not. I don't know if you guys know that or not.
It's on Oculus, so it is.
Okay.
It's an exclusive for Xbox. I would guess potentially it might also be coming to PC, since there's a lot of those Xbox console exclusive that will be on Windows 10, PC, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, so that looked kind of cool because it just was something different they didn't really have. I guess that was kind of one good thing from Xbox was they had a very varied game lineup that they showed off. I guess a few games that I did like. One which was kind of surprising, Artful Escape. Excuse me. Kind of a side-scrolling thing, I guess, kind of. I mean, it was kind of a quick thing that I saw on that one. I didn't get to dive into that a little bit more, but it looked kind of cool. Kind of, it had the guy playing music and stuff like that. So that was kind of.
Oh yeah, that was with the guy who strummed the guitar, and then that caused like pillars to rise up underneath him.
Yeah, so that looked pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm not a huge platform fan, but I did find that interesting. What did you think? Did you see the side-scrolling game that looked a little like? I want to say it had this feel like it was a little like Blade Runner, and it was like a mix of like gameplay wise, it kind of felt like a mix between like Blade Runner and Prince of Persia, and it was like really beautiful graphically, but it was a side scroller. It was like
That was at the last night.
Yes, yeah.
I think I remember seeing that. It was kind of a blur though because I was kind of going through everything. But yeah, that one did look good graphically at least. So that was cool. I guess the one big one out of that one would be BioWare's Anthem, which was their new, I guess, Destiny-like. It kind of looks like Destiny-like game, I guess. That just looked really good, looked really cool. I mean, any game where you can kind of fly around, just on a kind of open world-ish. I don't know if it's totally open world, but the big section they showed looked like it was kind of, at least it was a huge section. I don't know if it's totally open world or not, but that looked really cool.
I think, was it them? Somebody. So I think it's that studio that's calling it. It's or I forget what the term is. It's like near linear wide something. It's this new marketing term that they're coming.
That is some beautiful PR speak there.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely PR speak because I guess what some devs are becoming concerned about is this notion that, and it's true that like everybody's going open world now, right? So everybody's new game is I'm open world, and the counter to that is to say, well, we're not open world because the negative about that is the negative I give, which is okay, great, so it's another $60 game that I'm never going to be able to finish, right? But they also want to make sure that there's a connotation that it's not like this short, abbreviated 8 to 12 hour experience, which I'm personally just fine with. It's near linear wide. Wide path, near linear wide path world game, something like that. I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up.
You guys keep going.
Yeah, so that one looked really cool. Maybe it's kind of they just throw it into a big playground, probably more likely the big sections of the game. kind of like I guess Destiny. I mean, those wasn't obviously an open world game, but you can the kind of the levels that you get thrown into are pretty big. So yeah, but that looked cool, looked gorgeous. Oh, well, I shouldn't say Scorpio now, but Xbox One X. Okay, looks cool, I guess. I don't have 4K TV. I'm not going to get one anytime soon. I know it does. If you have just like regular 1080p, it's going to make those games look good, even on that system or on that TV, that type of TV. So, but for $500, I can't drop another $500 on another console like that. Not right now, at least. Maybe eventually, I'll try to pick it up. But and I guess another one actually from there was Crackdown 3. I was looking forward to that one, so that one looks cool. Graphically, looks fine. It's kind of cartoony, cel shaded graphics, so I can stand the test of time, I suppose. Those kind of graphics, but it looks crazy. There's all kinds of explosions, people shooting everywhere, and stuff like that. So that was good. And then as far as the other conferences, I mean, nothing too exciting that jumped out to me except for Nintendo with Mario Odyssey. That one looks really cool. Him in the city still looks a little weird, little janky. Although him on the scooter, when they showed him on the scooter, that looked like perfect because he's like on a little scooter just riding around the city. So that part was like perfect. But otherwise, he looks a little weird in a real life setting. But the the other things, you can throw your hat and make turn into that object, I guess, or possess them. It kind of look like so, and enemies and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, but like I said, overall, I just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe because there was no big hardware announcements. I mean, obviously the Xbox One X, but that's more of a mid-cycle upgrade more than like a super duper. Here's Xbox whatever 2 or whatever they want to call it next. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my thoughts on the whole E3 thing. And it might have been too that I had to go after the fact because usually I watch these conferences live. Maybe that's part of it. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. And I was kind of tired from the day and all that. So, but yeah, unfortunately that's how I felt about it this time around. And all the conferences, they were fine. I think they kind of played it safe, at least in my opinion. There's nothing, like I said, nothing that wowed me. They didn't really announce anything too big, I think, or that most people probably could already figured it out. So I guess Metro Exodus? That was kind of came out of nowhere as an exclusive. I guess that's a PC exclusive too, I suppose. So yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about it.
So Prime, heading into the fall, is there anything that got you excited enough that you're eager to pre-order, that you're on your must-have list, or just a lot of wait and sees?
I'm probably not going to pre-order anything this year. Maybe Mario, if I can get a Switch early enough within the next few months, I might pre-order that one. But I mean, other than that, I mean, there's no really reason that I would need to pre-order. I guess last year I did with Battlefield and Call of Duty, which is, I mean, I guess that's fine. I'll probably do it maybe within like a week or two of when the game releases, but I probably won't do it, months in advance or anything like that. So that's part Mario would probably be the only one, only because, I mean, I could probably download that one too, I suppose. I mean, I don't have to worry about not finding the stores. So, I mean, who knows with that one either. If I can ever find a Switch, because I'm actually looking for a Switch now and I can't get one. They're not in the stores, at least by me. So, but yeah, I signed up for a site actually that lets you know when things release. So hopefully that'll get me a Switch. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's games like Battlefield 2. I definitely want to get when it comes out. That looks gorgeous. The graphics look beautiful, and I like the first one. Eventually, I liked the first one because at first I was kind of lukewarm on it, but it kind of grew on me. But yeah, this one looks like really cool, and it has a single player campaign. Although I'm a little, I don't know about playing an Empire person. Because I usually like to play the good guy, even when you can be a bad guy. I usually just play the good path. But
I'm actually looking really forward to that. Actually, I'm one of those people who I've always conceived that everybody in the Empire is not evil, right? That some of them thought that they were doing the right thing. You could have that whole discussion of just following orders and stuff, but
yeah,
but I've always wanted to see that told, from somebody who actually, like I said, thought that they were doing the right thing. It's neat that they have a real actress for that. I shouldn't say a real actress, but somebody with a lot of both on screen and voice acting experience. So I think that'll actually be pretty cool. I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go through it, but just a little weird. It'll be interesting to see how they play that. How that plays out.
Right, and I still can't find it, but I believe that the term is near linear dynamically wide gameplay, and that is a Sony thing specifically. It's not Anthem. I think that's a Sony thing that they've got all their studios saying, because as I mentioned on the Sony E3 press conference review, a big thing for them is 95% of the games that were shown in their E3 press conference were all third-person games. And if you don't track things very closely, you would assume that they're all third-person open-world games. So I think they have this voice track that they're trying to give, particularly when they're demoing the games, to allay people's fears that every single one of Sony's games is now a third-person open-world game.
Nice. All right, so let's actually, before we jump onto the next segment here, the next topic of the week, EA. Did anybody like EA's conference this year? Anybody at all?
Yeah, I did. I really think kind of EA and Ubisoft were kind of the two best conferences. I mean, I give EA a nod that I liked it, not necessarily the best conference, but I liked it mainly because of the tons of Battlefront 2 gameplay that they showed, bringing in the whole professional gamer scene, all the personalities they had. Again, maybe gamers don't need that, but I thought it was neat. They had iJustine, they had Janita Gavenkar, who plays the commander in the game. They had John Boyega show up on screen, and then they had that pit of gamers that they had all in like a battle circle, right, playing the game, and one of the announcers from one of the leagues there, along with the game's either producer or creative director. I thought that format worked really well, and they showed it wasn't quick, right? That Battlefront 2 segment was like, what, DB, like 20 minutes or so of the thing, and it was almost all gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, they ended the conference with the Battlefront 2 kind of basically multiplayer showdown, and they played close to 30 minutes of gameplay. And I think the other thing that I liked about EA was that they showed gameplay, where like NBA Live, that they, instead of just giving us a pre-rendered cutscene, that we got some gameplay there. The same thing with the Need for Speed new game. There's always a little bit of how long they spend talking about story modes in their sports games, but it wasn't as bad as it has been in years past. So maybe it's because I'll say this. Maybe it's because I watched it live and I didn't catch Ubisoft live, that I found it a little more engaging. But it also moved relatively quickly. I don't know that anything at any of the conferences was jump out of your seat, clap your hands, and get too excited for. But I didn't. It was not as painful as some of EA's conferences have been in the past.
Right. I mean, I'll give my nod to Ubisoft for best of the show, just because they had my game of the show in their press conference. Sadly, I probably would have said it was Microsoft's. I definitely think Microsoft's was better than Sony's. But Microsoft would have slayed it for me had they not dealt that crushing blow right at the end of the press conference in a very hand-wavy kind of way. Oh, it's $4.99, which, like, literally, like, if you would have seen my body language, like, I literally deflated in my seat. I was so up on it, and I didn't really care for the Porsche 911 thing that they did. But in the interest of diversity, I liked that they're opening the show had a female gamer, front and center in their opening cinematic, and that they brought out two professional race drivers who were both female to talk through Forza 7. But there were lots of things. There were a couple of things where I'm like, don't waste my time at an E3 press conference. Your big press conference if you're doing, the most powerful console ever, and the same thing for Sony with VR. And show me a 2D side-scrolling game. that's a little arrogant, but I just like I flash it on the screen, but I don't need you to spend any airtime on it. So, but overall, I thought Microsoft's conference was pretty good. As each day goes by, I get more and more lukewarm on Sea of Thieves. I'm just, it was an interesting concept when I first seized upon it, but the more and more I think of it, I'm just Rare does not make games that are kind of in my wheelhouse. So I will probably gladly observe other people playing it and get really up on it. But I'll be putting that by the side and hoping that the Dreadnought beta continues and that the Skull and Bones, that I can get into the Skull and Bones beta.
Just roll right into that one.
Yep.
All right. So let's jump into our last topic here. Talk about RPGs. And Zeus, do you want to go ahead and I don't know if you pitched this one, I believe.
Yeah, I did. It's just kind of a quirky thing that came up on my radar because I was looking at some RPG games earlier today. So, and a couple things. So I finally turned on my Xbox One after some significant period of time not playing on it, and pulled down my Games with Gold games this weekend. One of those games, Watch Dogs was one of them. Very cool because I bought Watch Dogs 2, and now Watch Dogs, the original, is free. But the other game that was free, one of them was Speedrunners, which DB is going to talk about when we get into our playlist. But the other one that was the backwards compatible game this month was Dragon Age Origins, which I bought, I believe, from Amazon, and then on one of the summer game sales, but just never got around to playing it. And I think I've lost my keys since then and other stuff. So I was like, I'll download this and maybe give it a whirl. And then again, we're kind of still in the throes of E3, and I was like, man, I don't really remember a ton of RPG games being shown at E3. And of course, there was Elder Scrolls Online, and again, a lot of the games that we saw, it's debatable. Somebody would certainly debate that they are RPGs. And then on top of that, we have this whole continuing convergence of all these genres, which has been going on for the better part of a decade. But it's really getting more extreme. I mentioned to DB on our last show of Band of Gamers that, I bought, really without even realizing it, I bought a game that is a real-time strategy game. And when I got like 10 or 15 minutes into it, I went, oh, holy cow, I'm playing a real-time strategy game. Oh, wait, somebody made a real-time strategy game in 2017 because people are starting to not do that. And I think I've been noticing that since last year or the year before. So the questions are, and there's a litany of them, what's the last great RPG you played, and why did you play it? So DB, I'll pitch that one over to you.
See, and I'm prepared to talk about the rest of it. In terms of RPG is still up and running and doing well. I think about if I could think about the last great RPG that I played. And maybe I will go back. I played Dragon Age Origins just to tie it back into the game here. I played that in 2012. Probably, and I played through the main campaign, played through Awakening, I played through some of the other DLC, the Golem one, then I played Awakening, and then I finished off with Witch Hunt, right? Did the whole kind of DLC arc, and it told, at least for my character, it told a really complete and engaging story, and it hooked me in. I played Dragon Age 2 before I played Dragon Age 1. And so I enjoyed 2 for what it was, not having that as a reference point. But for anybody out there, Dragon Age 1 on the Xbox or on PC, PlayStation is a little rougher. I own it there as well, just in terms of the graphics, because that engine doesn't work as well on the PlayStation 3. But you can, turn the difficulty down, play it like an action game. You can you can pause the action if you want and play it like a traditional, computer Western RPG. It's a really good and solid RPG experience in terms of a story. If I go back and think about the last great RPG that I played, that emotionally moved me, maybe it's that. You know, if I think about someplace, for me, I want some type of character interaction. I want, I don't want just loot. I'm not looking for an action RPG. I enjoy those, and anybody that listened to any of the Band of Gamers podcasts will tell you that I'm a loot hound. But I think that there is real value in that kind of traditional RPG, whether it's a JRPG or not. And so I think about one of the reasons why I picked up the new 3DS was for Xenoblade Chronicles. Uh, Thinking about RPGs that came out this year, we had in the JRPG side, we had Persona 5, which got really solid reviews from people. I have not played it, but again, people have put it right up there, or at least close to Persona 4, which is kind of the pinnacle of the series. But then also on the computer RPG side, on the Western RPG side, we had Torment, Tides of Numenera, which is kind of the spiritual follow-up to the classic Planetscape Torment game based in the, that's what, late 90s? Classic kind of, you know, Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate type of realm there. So I think I think there's still definitely games out there. One of the games that I was looking forward to on the Sony side is Ni no Kuni 2, just because of the art style and the kind of the immersiveness of it. And that got some play, not a whole lot. But you're right. There on the E3 side, there wasn't a whole lot of announcements about big RPG games that weren't either VR remasters or Switch remasters or things like that. Zeux, I'm going to kick it back to Prime Zeux and not give it to you and say, have you played a big or a engaging RPG lately?
Probably more action RPGs more than anything, like Fallout 4 and Skyrim, those kind of games. I guess you kind of have to go back though and kind of go back to the second half of Zeus's questions. What is an RPG? What do you consider an RPG? I mean, there's action RPGs. There's I was gonna say Japanese RPGs, the JRPGs. So I guess for me at least, it's action RPGs that I've mostly been playing and gone through. So a great one for me was Skyrim. Obviously, I've talked about that to nauseum, I'm sure. If people have heard Band of Gamers podcasts and Fallout, so that would be the best one for me, Skyrim. The last one I played, like I said, is probably Fallout 4, which I'm still playing. I'm still going through. But yeah, I mean, you have South Park, which they announced on Ubisoft's conference. That's probably more, RPG than most games that I've played. And yeah, that's probably the only one I saw, other than the expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, which is once again that's more of an action one. So yeah, I don't remember seeing a whole lot out there right now. So Zeus, what is an RPG for you? Like, what do you consider an RPG? Is it old style? You gotta fiddle with every little stamina, and the guy's right foot is faster than his left, or stuff like that, or is it more action oriented?
It's pen and paper. like literally. So I wrote an article a couple years ago, I think, again back when I was at Geeks Worldwide, and I kind of ruminated. And I think I was playing Witcher 3 at the time, and I kind of ruminated on how I was coming to this realization that like there was really no crappig, computer RPG experience that was satisfying. And as I was playing it, it's almost like it got so near to the real RPG experience that it was kind of like an uncanny valley effect, right? It suddenly made me hypersensitive, and made me reminisce about my old pen and paper tabletop RPG experiences, and I'm like, man, as good as this is, it's just not the same. So when it comes to what I play, I'm probably definitely more an action RPG type. The convergence for me kind of started back with System Shock 2, and so I guess at the end of the day, I'm not really a computer RPG fan, just because those tend to be those open world games that are 80 hours of gameplay, and I'm not going to play that. So what I like is I like a game that like Prey, and Prey is not my favorite game right now. I'm definitely more into Horizon Zero Dawn, but it's interesting, and I do like the skill tree progression, and they have that in Horizon Zero Dawn as well. And so I guess I've kind of bought into, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid now of kind of every game kind of has an RPG element to it, just in terms of you being able to select a branching skill tree and kind of sculpt and mold your character the way you want to.
Yeah, let's go back to that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because Horizon Zero Dawn, I feel, is very much, it has a lot of RPG elements to it. You know, as you yourself said, you finally enjoyed crafting. That there are levels, and there are a variety of weapons with stats and perks and all kinds of things. That there are skill developments. There is a traditional branching skill tree that you get when you level up.
And
there's a lot there.
And there's a dialogue tree.
Yes.
Which unfortunately I think has become the stamp that kind of really telegraphs to gamers that it's an official RPG, right? Is the kind of goofy branching dialogue chains.
I think, there's some of that in terms of the RPG piece, but an action RPG, I guess, and when I think of an action RPG, I'm not thinking about Skyrim or Fallout. Those feel kind of more of, they're just another RPG. But an action RPG, I'm thinking about things like Diablo. I'm thinking about the Marvel Heroes betas that's coming to Xbox in the next week or so. It's that kind of that loot grindy type of piece.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of games that, I think this is a whole different topic, is that there are, what game out there now doesn't have some type of RPG piece in it.
Well, right, and that's kind of the vector of the conversation, right? It's double-ended, right? One question is like I said, is anybody making real RPGs anymore? And that's, is anybody making RPGs that have the level of complexity that makes you feel like you're really in the world and growing yourselves, right? But the opposite end of the question is also valid, which is, are there RPGs when every game really has RPG elements in it, or does that question even just stop and we just come to the realization that every game is an RPG to some extent now? Prime, what were you going to say?
I forgot my question or my comment now. Oh no, I was going to say, okay. So DB, like you mentioned Diablo, and I've never played Diablo, so can you explain like the RPG side of Diablo, or what do you think? Why do you think that Diablo is an RPG?
So I guess I'll consider it an action RPG because there are levels that you gain, there are skill trees that you unlock, there are different layers of equipment that have perks to it that you equip and unequip, so that there is a system within a system that you are understanding in order to keep going. The actual action is very clicky. It's a matter of kind of mid-maxing and thinking of those pieces where the RPG piece comes in.
Okay. I was just wondering because that's more, I guess that's more like the weapons you get and stuff like that, and like the armor, right? Is what you're kind of saying. So would you consider like Borderlands an RPG because you can get like a different weapon and you can equip different, ammo and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think Borderlands is very much a first-person Diablo in terms of shooting. It's not even. There's still a dice roll in that shot. That you can't. This is one of the things that some people who are big first-person shooter fans gave a knock against Borderlands, is that some of the guns, if you're out-leveled or you're shooting at an enemy that's higher than you, even getting a headshot, you're not going to get the same type of damage to it because there's a leveling system around that as well.
Right. No, I'm glad you explained that because I was not quite clear on the RPG aspect of shooting because it feels, and I may be wrong. I could definitely acknowledge that I'm wrong given the explanation you just gave, that Destiny is one of those things. It has RPG elements in terms of you get to choose your skills, and you can do some inventory management and whatnot. But once you're on the field, right, that's a shooter. It's shooter-based mechanics. But Prime, I was going to ask you before we start getting ready to step over here to our playlist. So, what kind of defines an RPG for you?
Well, that's kind of funny because I was just thinking, like back in the day, when I was younger, playing on Super Nintendo, I guess, and even PlayStation, original PlayStation. What I considered RPG was something like Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy games, and I guess it was more. It wasn't because of stats and stuff like that. I guess it was more the gameplay because it was a style of gameplay. I guess maybe I just didn't understand what a role playing game was, or maybe it was just something different back then. Because I thought it was more because instead of okay, I got my guy in another game and I can just hit the A button or B button and he's smacking. But then when you go to Final Fantasy, you're picking your action. So you say, hey, I want to do defense, and the guy will throw up a shield, or I want to do I want to attack, and he'll just do it automatically. So you didn't have control of it. That was kind of what my thinking of RPG is back then. Now, what I'm thinking is like Skyrim, like Fallout, more actiony, I guess, RPGs. But you can tweak elements of your character. You can choose different perks and stats and stuff like that. You can buff your character with the cooking and the alchemy and stuff like that. So I guess now that's what I think RPG is nowadays.
I think all of those are valid, right? I think you're absolutely right, Prime. Like, the idea of you having some type of ownership over your character, and whether that ownership comes through a branching narrative and dialogue trees, or it comes through the ability to equip and buff that character with certain skills or items, certainly provides and makes it, there's an engagement in an RPG, I think is part of it. That's more so than what would traditionally be an action game or an adventure game, where you're kind of, the character that you have is kind of the character you move through the game with. And so I said, there's a lot of fuzzy edges to what makes an RPG, and I think it would be an interesting discussion to kind of point out where else those things are. Because if I think about character creation and ways to tweak stats and modify my character, playing MLB The Show 17 this year, the road to the show is a huge kind of RPG aspect of it, as you're buffing your character with different practice skills and trying to develop your skills in terms of strengths. So there's lots of ways to think about that. But in terms of how you're saying with it's a gameplay piece, I think that holds true as well, that gameplay can be, I played through 57 hours of Fallout 3 by pushing pause every time I shot somebody. And, and I didn't play it as an action game. I played it as a role-playing game. And I chose my, head or arm or limb and then unpaused and watched the action play out. I went back to that same type of what you're saying of a traditional turn-based strategy there. So I think there's a lot of potential out there. It'd be interesting as we get into the fall to talk about what, come back to this and say, what games this fall kind of capture that. Zeux, you're talking about going back to pen and paper. The one game that is coming out this fall that I think captures, and that I don't know that anybody would disagree that it is a role-playing game, is Divinity Original Sin 2, which is coming out. It's launching in September 14th. Not only does it kind of hold that traditional computer RPG mindset and model, but also puts it out on consoles. And now last month they also talked about how they're going to do a dungeon master aspect to it, where you can set up your create your own story, do your DMing through it, and bring in friends and other people online. So definitely trying to go back to that pen and paper piece as well.
Okay, so my last question before Prime takes us over to our playlist is, in one sentence or in one or two sentences, did anybody get a genre theme from E3 this year? Last year was kind of the year of the shooter, right? We had tons of really good shooters that we're probably still playing. But anybody pick up on a common theme of kind of what people are targeting? There's been this statement through mid-year that like now everybody was going to be going after a Destiny-like game, and that everybody would be going after a Souls-like game, so referencing like Dark Souls. Any theme in that vein that either of you picked up on?
Not from the limited stuff that I saw. No, I'd have to say no for me at least.
So I think one thing that if I take out Sony's press conference, the theme that I feel is probably the strongest is how does it stream, right? Can you commentate over it? Is it something where you're going to pull people in? Is it, Skulls and Bones? Is it, the pirate game from Rare where it's built for streaming? They even said that the new Beam update with dual broadcasts that Beam now has, or whatever it's now called. Is it still Beam or is it something else? Mixer. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. It was designed specifically because they wanted to be able to do that. You're right. Zeus talked about the influencers at the E3 at the EA show. I think that to me felt like more of a theme. And in part, after listening to a variety of other podcasts, they talked about how many YouTubers, streamers, influencers were on the show floor, were live casting from the seats at the press conferences, right? So I think that felt more of a thematic piece than any genre, at least to me.
Cool. Zeus, any theme that you got?
No, not other than to throw shade once again at Sony for their third-person open world trailer palooza.
All right. So, and you know what? Before we jump into what we've been playing this past week or so, role-playing game, defined by our good friends at Wikipedia, is a game in which players assume the role of characters in a fictional setting. So that's pretty much any game, I think, really.
Pretty much every video game.
So everything's a role-playing game. All right. So let's go to what we've been playing this past week. DB, you want to start us off? Looks like you've been playing some Xbox and Nintendo games.
I have been playing nothing that looks like a role-playing game. So I have been fighting a cold for the last week, and if you listen really closely, maybe I disguised it last week during E3. But so I've been spending a lot of time kind of resting and sitting with a handheld. So I went back and picked up. It's been sitting on my shelf for quite a while. Is the 3D version of the NES Classic Remix, right? So that's a lot of different NES, Nintendo games mixed together. Take down King Hippo and make him drop his drawers, or sneak under this piece of the thwomps in Mario. So I've been playing that. Again, nothing's fancy. But then this past weekend, my son and I, as a little bit of Father's Day, we spent some time gaming together, and we played Speedrunners. So that is one of the other games that is out and free for Xbox Live this month. It's been on PC for years. It also has DLC packs with YouTubers. You could be those characters. So again, going back to that streaming, it is designed as a multiplayer game. You're in kind of a circuit. You're in a level. It's kind of goes back and kind of feels almost like the classic Flash game N+, where you're the little stick ninja and you're jumping and hanging on sides and trying to make your way around. But basically, this becomes like it's a circuit, and you're moving around the level, and you're trying to not fall off the screen. And if you fall off the screen, or you get left behind as the screen starts to close in on you, you die and the other person wins. So I've been playing that. It's fun. It's free. People should definitely give it a try. It's something where there's definitely some skill to it, but a lot of fun, both local co-op and some fun online. So that's what I've been playing. Prime, you have been out on vacation, so have you had a chance to get some gaming in?
Yeah, I didn't. When I was actually on vacation last week, I didn't really play anything, some mobile games here and there. But when I came back this past weekend, I just kind of went back to my usual Rocket League and Black Ops 3, which Rocket League was announced for the Switch, so that's cool. I'll probably be buying it on that system if I ever get it. And then I just jumped back in the backlog, just my usual Just Cause 3. I was playing, having fun with that. I actually gotten pretty far through the story. Well, at least I think I am. I have no idea. I can't really tell because every once in a while I'll just jump off and start, going to the villages or the towns, trying to liberate those, or like some big fortress, from the government or whatever. So,
and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Just Cause 3 is it's the awesome thing about that game is like I don't know how important the story is. You start driving, you parachute, you grab a boat, whatever, and you just start scanning the horizon. And as soon as you see like some structure marked with red bands on it, you like,
That's right.
That's the next mission. I don't care about the campaign. I don't care about the story. The next mission is over that away, right? So I miss playing. It's every time you say that you're playing that, man, I'm like, I should bring that back up. But I get so addicted to that game. It's one of those games that I will play for like a week at a time.
It'll just take you over. Yeah, it's super fun. Just finding new ways to blow things up. It's fun, especially those canisters where you can kind of shoot it and it just shoots off. So that's always fun to tether somebody onto that. So yeah, I've been doing that. And then you actually have those little like the driving like mini games and paragliding and stuff like that that kind of ups up your equipment. So that's cool. I've been doing those stuff too. So other than that, that's pretty much it. Zeus, how about you? Looks like you've been playing a bunch of stuff or a few things.
Yeah, I've been playing a few bits and pieces. So I spent some time Saturday. I had to work a lot from home, and so I had an opportunity kind of taking study breaks to play my nVidia Shield Portable a lot, which, every time I get on that system, there's an analog. Bear with me. there's a metaphor to my old Mustang that I used to have, where I got to an age, and it exacerbated itself as I started to approach marriage as well. But before I even met I was already in an age where I was like, whenever I would look out my apartment window and see that car in the parking lot, I would be like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to have to go drive this thing. If I was going to go take a road trip, for 5 hours, because my back would hurt and my knees would hurt because you were sitting on the ground. But as soon as I got in and had turned the key, I would love driving the vehicle again. So, and the nVidia Shield Portable kind of feels like that a lot. When I look at it on the desk and it's like the next thing in my game queue, I'm like, man, I should just get rid of that thing. Like it only plays a few games, but then when I sit down on it, I'm like, this is a really capable handheld, despite all my, naysaying and misgivings about it. So I spent kind of the day with it Saturday in between working. And I discovered this game, Storm Raiders, or Sky Gamblers Storm Raiders. And it's a series on Android called Sky Gamblers, and it basically plays like Blazing Angels. So, and nobody's making any Blazing Angels games right now, right? So a lot of people threw shade at Xbox for the Xbox backwards compatibility, saying like, I don't know what in the world you would want to play on it. And the answer to that is Crimson Skies, right? I will also say that another answer to that is Project Gotham Racing 2, which I'm really looking forward to coming back for backwards compatibility. But at any rate, I played Storm Raiders, plays like Blazing Angels, awesome game. I also jumped in and played some multiplayer. That was pretty awesome as well. And then I spent a big chunk of time yesterday getting back into Forza Horizon 2. Actually mentioned a buddy of mine, the person who helped me discover this game, because there was a time that I was firmly decided that I didn't care how good a racing game was, and we all know I love racing games, that if it was an open world racing game, I wasn't interested. But I have put in close to 1,000 miles in Forza Horizon 2. It is currently the game statistically that I've spent, the racing game that I've statistically spent the most time in. And I guess I've never looked back. I definitely love European circuit racing. That is still my preference, but I do really enjoy Forza Horizon 2. So I played a big chunk of that yesterday. And then the last thing that I've been playing, it's a game that I picked up last week, is a Steel Division Normandy 44. So through the wonders of technology, if you guys will bear with me, I know we're in our last 10 minutes, I'm going to try and actually broadcast some gameplay here. See if I can pull this off. I don't think you're going to get sound of the gameplay, but so this is the opening tutorial, and it's the landing at a beachhead. I assume it's Normandy. I'm not sure, but this is the World War II real-time strategy game that I've been playing most recently. And you can see the zoom in is really gorgeous on it. You can really get down there and see all of the units. Like I said, that's just a demo. It took me a long time. I decided not to play the tutorial. So it took me kind of a long time to try and understand how the gameplay mechanics worked. And as you guys know, my hallmark of I'm going to go back a little bit. So this is the end of my first time through when I'm just starting to understand how air units work. You can see a couple air units I have in. I think you're about to see the, actually, go back a little bit more. And don't worry, I'm gonna try and keep this to no more than a 5-minute demo. But I just recently obtained the tech to pull this off, so I wanted to try it on our debut episode. So what you have is you have the map, and there's a bit of resource gathering, but it's fully automated, and it really focuses on your tactical employment. So as you can see here, I've been relegated to the bottom right-hand corner of the map as the only territory that I have remaining. And as you see here, you have ingress points on the map, and those are the only areas that you can enter the map. You can see there I'm deploying my first air unit as these kind of circles around. You have a certain number of points that you can expend to deploy units at a time, and then they enter the battlefield. And I think what you're going to see here is this pretty quickly is the first bombing run, which almost looks like it drops napalm, but obviously it's not napalm because it's World War II. But if you can see kind of there in the just to the upper left-hand corner of center, a bunch of flaming units that are now burning, and that's where that aircraft made the bombing run. So I haven't quite figured everything out yet. There is definitely a combined arms aspect to it, but one thing is these matches are no joke. This is me playing the game in skirmish mode, and the German aggressors just roll immediately across the map. So apparently, again, I hadn't figured it out. This is my first 30 minutes of gameplay, but apparently you need to just immediately deploy as many units as you possibly can to the battlefield. This map has like 3 different ingress points on it, and immediately proceed to take over territory, because otherwise the enemy just they don't do any base building and trying to mass up their forces and then launch an offensive. They immediately start kind of blitzkrieging across the field. So that is just wanted to show you guys that, and I think if I can continue refining that formula, hopefully we'll be able to do a little gameplay session like that from streaming archives or something on Rounding Off Infinity periodically on the show. So
that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So is that a newer game, or?
Yeah, so that game just released on Steam. I think at the beginning of the month, like June 7th, I want to say. Yes, so that is a demo of a new game. So if you're looking for something new to play, and you're into RTSs, you're into old-time war games, I think that game will kind of appeal to grognards who are looking for something like that to play.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I was always into Red Alert and stuff like that, so maybe I'll check that one out.
Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, that game is on PC, and its release date was May 23rd.
Oh, okay. Yeah. A couple months. All right, cool. Well, that looks like that brings us to the end of the first episode of Enough to Keep It Going. Keep wanting to say gaming for some reason, but I guess it kind of works either way. So really quick, any of you have any last words, plugs, or anything like that? DB?
No, I think we'll be back for the Thursday night newscast.
Cool. Zeus?
Nope, that's it. Like DB said, just join us again Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for the news show.
Yes.
We will have you in and out in 30 minutes or so with all the week's big or interesting gaming news.
All right, awesome. Yep. Hopefully we'll all be there, and hopefully you'll be there. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. I think this will be up. Actually, we haven't got the. Do you have the network up yet for this on YouTube?
Yes. Yeah, that's where we're actually broadcasting from right now.
Okay, I know you had some reservations earlier of if you're going to have that up or not. So.
Yep. Cool.
Yep. So like, subscribe, and share it with everybody, please. And we'll be back Thursday, and then the following Monday for our core show. On behalf of myself, Osiris Prime, DBQHams, and Zeux. We see you next time.